A golden light poured from the chandelier above, casting its brilliance across the ornate golden door of the vault. Before it stood the professors of Boot Camp Viragian, the Vikier Women's University, Colosio Academy, and the Magic Tower, each bearing solemn pride. Facing them were the 10 victorious students, the champions of the National University League. At their head, the venerable long white-bearded whale spread his arms wide, a broad smile creasing his ancient features as he offered praise. He congratulated the 10 who had triumphed through their house trials, marveling at their accomplishments. With a voice steeped in both warmth and authority, the old magician commended the freshmen as well, declaring that their success in passing the second stage of the apprenticeship system had surpassed all expectations. Vikier stood apart, silent, his gaze lowered to the floor, unreadable. At his side, Granola wore a smug grin, his confidence radiating like a flame, while Sinclair's fists tightened, her cheeks burning with exhilaration she could hardly contain. The professors of each academy regarded them with respect, acknowledging not only their victories. Long white-bearded Whale's voice filled the vast chamber as he began to outline the rules for how the students would claim their artifacts. Lifting a finger toward the ceiling, he explained that beyond the treasure room's gate lay countless dormant artifacts, and that today, on the only day of the year, the vault would remain open for 5 hours. His sharp gaze swept across the gathered students as he revealed that once those hours passed, the doors would close and would not open again until the following year's competition. At this, the Baskerville triplets' eyes widened in surprise. The old magician stressed that this was an ironclad rule. Should anyone fail to return in time, even the professors would be powerless to save them, and he urged the students to remember that well. His expression darkened as he turned to a specific student, the one who had completed the Baskerville family assignment, Vikier. For the first time, Vikier lifted his head, meeting the magician's gaze. Long white-bearded Whale's eyes hardened with clear irritation as he scolded him. The others had nearly been delayed from entering because of his late arrival. Poor time management, he warned, would see him locked away inside the vault forever. He advised Vikier not to linger too long within. At his words, Granola and Sinclair, standing at Vikier's side, started to laugh at Vikier's scolding. The reprimand did not end there. If Vikier intended to be late, the least he could have done was send word. No one knew what had happened to him, and they had nearly filed a missing report. Long white-bearded Whale reminded him that his own reputation and position had been on the line and he was obligated to see the competition proceed without incident. Sinclair tried to stifle a laugh behind her hand while Vikier stayed silent. His gaze dropped to his feet, thoughts spiraling. To him, only a single day had passed within the grave of swords. Yet when he emerged from the tower, he had been told 10 days were gone. The battlefield where he clashed with Cane Corso Le Baskerville had been the lowest floor, so perhaps the upper levels warped time and space even further. Then suddenly, Vikier's head snapped up, his eyes narrowing. His attention locked on the vault door, and a shadow fell across his expression. From its surface, he could feel it, an ominous pulse thick with demonic energy. And in that instant, he understood. He had taken another step closer to the 10 elite corpses. Slowly, the vault door began to creak open, and from within spilled a blinding surge of blue light, sharp and intense, flooding the chamber. A countdown had already begun. 5 minutes and 30 seconds remained before the door would shut once more. Long white-bearded Whale and the other professors seated themselves near the entrance, their figures cast into shadow. The vast room, once bright and grand, now lay cloaked in darkness. The only illumination was the ethereal blue glow spilling from the vault. Behind each professor, the proud emblems of their respective academies gleamed faintly in the haze. Time stretched on in silence until Vasilios shifted in his seat, glancing to his side at Hippolyte of the Vikier Women's University. He broke the stillness with a quiet observation. It was nearly time for the students to return. Resting her chin on her hand, she wonders what kind of artifacts the students might emerge with this year. Long white-bearded Whale turned toward her, his eyes calm yet knowing, and reminded her gently that it was never a matter of the student selecting the artifact. Rather, it was the artifact itself that decided which student was worthy to carry it beyond the door. At his words, Professor Snape remained still, watching them in silence, his expression unreadable. Long white-bearded whale spoke with steady authority, explaining that no matter what artifact a student brought back, the very fact that they carried one meant they had already been acknowledged as worthy. For that reason, he urged the professors to welcome them with warmth and genuine congratulations. Vasilios glanced toward him, agreeing with those. Epaulet closed her eyes with a faint smile and gave a firm nod, silently agreeing with the old magician's sentiment as well. Professor Snape, on the other hand, spoke and repeated Long White-Bearded Whale's words from the day Madame had appeared. If she had not intervened, the magic tower would have secured this year's victory. Snape remembered how the old magician had once confessed his desperation for the tower to triumph. And yet now he cloaked himself in concern for the students. To Snape, the hypocrisy was glaring. Long White-Bearded Whale, sensing Snape's silence, glanced at him with mild confusion. But Snape only clasped his hands together, his gaze fixed on the intense blue glow pouring from the vault. Quietly, he wondered how many students would be chosen this year. At that moment, the portal began to ripple and figures stepped through. The first to emerge was Hohenheim, clutching a radiant wand. Behind him came Lovegood, flicking her hair as she displayed a delicate hairpin, and then Jurassic, who raised his fist triumphantly, clad in newly forged metal gloves. Sinclair and the Baskerville triplets followed close behind, their steps purposeful as they approached the professors. Hippolyte addressed them warmly, asking each student who had obtained an artifact to reveal the abilities of their treasures. Hohenheim stepped forward eagerly, raising his wand as it glowed with vibrant light. He explained that it was forged with a pink dragon scale, its power amplifying his mana beyond measure. With a bright smile, Lovegood showed her artifact, a heart-shaped hairpin. It granted protection against psychic and magical spells once, though it carried a condition. Its power could only be activated if someone she truly loved stood beside her. Jurassico lifted his hands proudly, revealing the artifact known as the Demon King's Hand. A gauntlet that dramatically increased his physical strength. Dolores stepped forward. She held up a golden artifact that gleamed brilliantly in the vault's light. It was the Mirror of Truth, a relic that revealed the true nature of a person's heart. Yet its power came with a limitation. It only worked on those within the scope of the wielder's skill. The Baskerville triplets lifted their blades high, revealing the three-branched swords they had obtained, artifacts that grew stronger when wielded together. Their proud display was followed by Sinclair, who turned with a gleam in her eye and pointed to the hat resting on her back. A purple gem was set into its crown, pulsing faintly with power. The artifact that had chosen her was the Hat of Wealth, a relic that amplified her mana in direct proportion to the money it consumed. Hippolyte could hardly believe it. Every single student had been chosen by an artifact. This year's group was unlike any class before them. In a thoughtful tone, Vasilios remarked that this could only mean the artifacts themselves had recognized the students' extraordinary talent. Then, with a slight edge of concern, he wondered aloud if all of the students had emerged. Long White-Bearded Whale lowered his eyes to the ground, his voice suddenly hoarse. There were 25 seconds left. The words struck like a spark. Hippolyte's eyes widened in shock, her head tilting toward the old magician, confusion plain on her face. Why had he not said anything sooner? Vasilios, calm but watchful, turned toward Long White-Bearded Whale, his eyes narrowing. He asked why the old man was sweating so heavily. Beads of sweat rolled down the magician's face as he raised a trembling hand to his head and began to count down the remaining seconds before the vault sealed. Professor Snape, his hands still clasped tightly, broke the silence with a grave tone. There was one student who had not yet emerged. His gaze sharpened, his eyes narrowing with both anger and disappointment as he declared the name, Vikier, a student of his academy. Long White-Bearded Whale pressed a hand against his face, panic shuddering through him. His body trembled as he cried out. 20 seconds remained. Never before had there been a student who failed to exit the treasure room, even if they were not chosen by an artifact. The portal began to blaze with violent intensity, its glow flooding the chamber. With his voice breaking, the old magician shouted his final warning. If Vikier wanted to live, he had to come out now. Sinclair's eyes locked on the glowing portal, her expression clouded with confusion. Where was Vikier? The thought pressed at her chest. Dolores, sensing her unease, turned sharply. Her gaze met Sinclair's, and she muttered Vikir's name under her breath. The seconds ticked away, each one heavier than the last. The Baskerville triplets spun toward the vault entrance, their faces paling as panic gripped them. Vikier had yet to appear. 10 seconds. Long white-bearded whale called out, his voice echoing like a tolling bell as he began the final countdown. Jurassico, Hohenheim, and Lovegood stared in stunned silence, eyes wide as the numbers fell lower. Jurassico clenched his jaw, unable to believe that Vikier still hadn't emerged. 4 seconds. The old magician's voice rang. A shadow stirred within the portal. Someone was forcing their way through. Out stepped Granola. His teeth ground together as he stumbled forward. His decision was made. He would not be trapped inside. He squeezed his eyes shut, unsure if he'd escaped in time. Then, with a harsh thud, he collapsed face first to the ground. At that precise moment, the golden door of the treasure vault slammed shut with finality. Breath ragged, sweat dripping down his face, Granola pushed himself upright. A cocky grin spread across his lips as he declared, almost theatrically, the protagonist always arrives late. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Sinclair and Dolores exchanged a look of shock, their eyes wide with both surprise and dread. They had never once imagined Granola was the one still inside. The Baskerville triplets stood frozen, disbelief written across their faces. As the smoke and lingering glow from the portal faded, silence fell like a heavy shroud. Breaking it, Granola frowned, baffled by the tension that gripped the room. "What's with this atmosphere?" he muttered. But Professor Snape's face told the truth. The color drained from him entirely, his eyes stretching wide with horror. His voice was caught in his throat as the realization struck. Vikier had not come out. Even with the golden door sealed shut behind him, Vikier's eyes glimmered with calm resolve. From his perch high above, balanced on a pillar. At last, silence. He was finally alone. He wasted no time. Dropping down, his boots kissed the stone floor without a sound. He straightened, gaze hardening with iron determination. Before the seventh corpse had the chance to act, he was going to kill it inside the gate while no one's around. Inside the vault, where no witnesses remained, moonlight filtered faintly through the chamber, weaving shadows over a sea of treasures. Jewels gleamed, potions shimmered, relics pulsed faintly with dormant enchantments. He had to find it here. Then he caught it, a scent. A familiar, choking trail of sulfur and rot curling in the air. His pupils sharpened, rage surging in his chest. A demon. The artifacts stirred as he passed, each one glowing faintly in recognition, each one calling for him. The vault's legend proved true. Students would know their artifact by its light. But Vikier only pressed forward, offering them nothing but a silent apology. They were not what he sought. Then he stopped. Amid treasures of unmatched grandeur, a mace gilded in gold, a shield etched with sacred sigils, a bow that thrummed with energy, rested a sword, flawless, gleaming. Its golden sheen captured the chamber's light as if divinity itself had been forged into steel. Beautiful, enticing, a lie. Vikier's hand clenched, knuckles bone white. He knew this false radiance. He knew this game. The seventh corpse, Decoravia. It had chosen to wear the mask of beauty, for the deepest darkness always hides behind the brightest of lights. Vikier raised his hand, crimson aura coiling along the Beelzebub sword, extending outward with unnatural speed. His gaze hardened, steely and unwavering. The game of hide and seek was over. In a single, fluid motion, the sword arced through the air, carving precise, devastating lines. The display sword shattered under his strike. Splinters of enchanted wood and shards of metal rained down, revealing the horror it had concealed. Decoravia hovered above, motionless, its demonic eye closed. Vikir's slash had cut across its single orb, leaving a streak of crimson etched into its surface. The massive eye snapped open, vertical pupil widening with a malevolent intelligence. Amber light radiated from it, fierce and scorching like the sun itself. The air thickened, charged with oppressive energy as the demon stirred from its long slumber. "It reminds me of the tower from Lord of the Rings," Weak, ignorant, and foolish human. You dare wake me? Said the seventh corpse demon. Before him hovered Decoravia, the seventh of the 10 elite corpses. Its risk rating was S+, its true size unknown. Discovered deep within the gate of destruction, Snake's womb. The natural enemy of humans and, being invulnerable and immortal, one of the 10 disasters. A warning was left behind. It will destroy core like a horde of locusts.
Thanks for watching the latest part from the voice of Manhwa. Subscribe for more content and don't forget to comment below what you want to see in the future. Like and share for more.